I look at it and I'm like, I'm keeping it together. I'm healthy at 44. I still have my yoga practice that I really have pushed a lot this year. I have time for my kids. I'm like, I believe that you can do everything you want to do. And if you don't, you just find an excuse, right? And so I think with proper, like, timing everything, what is important, you get it accomplished. And so the perspective to have this piece about not finishing the race or what have you is, I am just really proud of myself for everything that I get done, and that my kids think I'm a badass, and that my parents, support me, and I'm totally cool with it. And even all of the, I got probably about 10 text messages yesterday. I don't know if you can read this. Are you okay? There's no update on the tracker about you. What's going on? Did you get a crash or what have you? And everybody that I sent a note to, I said, I pulled out 75 miles out of the race. It just wasn't my day. Everybody was like, you're a badass no matter what. You're an Ironman no matter what.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete podcast. I'm Jess. I am your host, and Beej and I are coming to you from Tempe, Arizona. It's one day post Ironman Arizona, and since arriving on Friday, we have been in the Living Your Dreams hustle, which is what I'm calling it now. It's not just the hustle. It's the Living Your Dreams hustle, damn it. Recording episodes of the YTP Mini, volunteering at Ironman Arizona, training, raising, and spending time with family. And, like I said, it's the hustle that I really believe is living your dreams, and we'd have it no other way. So today we have the perfect guest on the heels of what I'm talking about, because we've got a woman who is so familiar with the hustle of love. Telsys, how do you pronounce your last name?
Tarallo.
Okay, I didn't get that before we went on the mic. So there's the imperfection, which I love so much. She is an Ironman triathlete, owner of Afterglow Marketing, founder of Athlete Race. She is a yogi, an actor, and a badass single mom who thrives on making a difference in the lives of others while doing what she loves. We first connected with Telsys at Ironman Santa Rosa. Was it last year, 2018? And after recognizing Clark, she walked over to us and introduced herself as a loyal podcast fan and yogi. And I could feel from the start that this woman was the real deal. She was talking the talk, walking the walk. And we've stayed in touch, and today we're bringing her to you guys. Telsys, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I really do. I follow the podcast. I follow you guys. We're drinking the same Kool-Aid.
How did you first find the podcast?
I was looking for hashtags. I had just gotten on Instagram, and I was looking for hashtags, like what hashtag represents me, and I looked up Yogi Triathlete, and that's how I found you guys.
Boom.
I'm like, wow, these guys exist. It's so cool. And then I started listening to the podcast, and yeah. That's how it happened.
That's so awesome. Well, I'm
psyched
that we're here.
Hashtags.
we were emailing back and forth, I don't know, I guess a couple months ago, and we were talking about getting you on the podcast, and we were like, we really want to do it in person. And you were the catalyst for us to say, well, what the hell? Let's go to Arizona. We'll volunteer. And here we are.
That's awesome. Thanks for coming. It was awesome. They got to body mark me. So that was so cool. Yeah. I had BJ font on me.
BJ has good font.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good font.
So important. I'm in marketing too. So yeah, I get it.
So let's dive into yesterday, because yesterday was a success in a way that you didn't plan on it being a success. And I say success in the way that life throws us lessons to learn, and we either embrace those or we push them down the vault. So tell us about what happened yesterday, because you did not finish your third Ironman.
No, I didn't. And I'm happy with that. I'm actually really at peace with that. I trained hard for it. I did Augusta half Ironman a month and a half ago. And it wasn't the race that I wanted, and it kind of broke my heart a little bit. So I'm like, back to the board, see what I got. And this back half of training just wasn't the same. There was just something, I don't know, it was like a little bit of a fire missing, and I'm like, it's okay. We go through ups and downs in life, right? And so I was a little bit scared of the swim. Being from Miami Beach, I don't really typically swim in cold weather like that. And so, but the swim was awesome. I mean, once they were like, get in the water, got a huge high five from Mike Riley, which was super cool walking in. And I love that guy. And I got in and got it done, got on the bike. It was like, okay, it's time to execute. My bike game has really gone up in terms of power. because earlier this year I raced an ultra marathon. I got into it because of listening to you and how much fun you're having out there. And I'm like, I want to try this too.
Did you have fun?
Or
were you like, she's full of shit?
No. I sent you a video, remember?
Oh,
I'm like,
that's right.
BJ Jess, this is for you. I'm running. Okay, so I'm running, visual for everybody who's listening. I'm running on the rim of Lake Powell. And now the sun is beaming and I am loving life. And I shot a little video going, Jess, BJ, this is for you guys.
That's right.
Because I was inspired to start this. So I did my first 55K and Antelope Canyon. And we ran the rim of Horseshoe Bend and we ran through the Antelope Canyons. It's just beautiful. It was a celebration of being alive, as that race was to me. You don't really race those races, and because there's so much climbing. The first 14 miles was like climb. So I wasn't racing a PR. Granted, I'd never done one before, so I guess I PR'd no matter what. But it was just beautiful. And now I'm signed up for Bryce Canyon, 60K.
I'll see you there.
Yay! I was hoping to convince you to do it with me after we finish this.
I'm going to do the 50 mile.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited. This is awesome. So I'm signed up in May. Yeah.
All right.
For
well,
May.
we'll have to do a SmackDown.
That's awesome.
After.
Yeah, that's awesome. So training for Antelope Canyon, my coach just, we don't have a lot of elevation in Miami Beach. And so it was literally like run 20 miles, every 3 miles, stop and do 100 squats. So my legs got so strong that when I got back onto the bike, not that I stopped the bike training or anything, but when I really got back into longer training runs, like my legs were just on fire and I just got a lot more power out of my legs. So I'm like, maybe this is a nice combination of training for these, intense ultra marathons that are in a lot of climbing situations and getting ready for that. And then on the back end of the year, doing an Ironman that I know that my legs are just going to be stronger. So, coming back around my bike game, right, from yesterday. My bike yesterday, I got on the bike and I would say the first 30 minutes, I experienced something that I've never experienced before, is the wanting to just not give it my all, which was really surprising to me. I kind of was shocked at myself because I just go. I never stop. I'm a single mom of 2 kids. I've been single since the day the kids were born. And so there's no option. There's no tapping out on that, My daughter's birth was a 29-hour natural labor. So I knew when I towed the line on my first Ironman in Santa Rosa, like, I'm getting this done no matter what. I went through that in life. Like, that's taught me everything I needed. That birth taught me everything I needed to know that I could accomplish anything in life, because there's no tapping out on that. There is really, you got to go through it. And there's a lot of reasons why it was a 29-hour labor. There's a lot of my body wanting to protect her from other things, now that, in the hindsight of that. So either way, I got on that bike and I was like, I had to talk myself into the second loop of the bike. And I was doing good. I was on pace, just like my coach and I had talked about. I was on pace. I wasn't having fun. And I'm like, triathlon to me is about having fun and about pushing my boundaries of what my body is capable of what my mind is capable of. But yesterday was just something different. It wasn't, it wasn't about pushing through this. I was not having fun. And then I was like, yeah, this just isn't working for me. And so of course, the ego is like, well, all my friends and family are waiting for the notification. They're not going to get that. They're going to get a DNF. And I'm like, and I'm okay with that. So I'm not walking out like giving up. It wasn't giving up or failing at anything. I genuinely took some time and just said, I'm going to honor myself. And right now, this is not where I need to be. And even I had 5 other friends in the house that were running, and I was like, I was great and happy seeing them to the finish line. And not once did I be like, man, I wish I would have kind of gone back and finished it. I had no desire to.
How did that decision come about? Like the final decision? Did it go back and forth? Like, okay, well, I'm going to get off.
So I was on the bike for 4 hours. I was on the bike for 4 hours. 3 of those hours was battling in my head.
What was the battle? Like
DNF. This isn't working. This isn't serving me right now.
How did you keep taking pedal stroke after pedal stroke?
I don't know. It was like the autopilot. Like I sometimes we live on autopilot, right? And the autopilot was just kicking in. Like, let's just, and I wanted to really make sure. I'm like, Telsys, you've trained hard for this. This is your back end of the year. I sacrifice a lot. My son's, baseball championship game was yesterday. I wasn't there for it. That was a tough decision to make. I mean, to still do the race, despite the fact that if there's one thing that for me, that triathlon, as much as I love it, it never gets in the way of what my kids come first. And so there's many times where my son's baseball games on a Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and I may have a 5-hour ride, and I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm on the trainer at 2:30 to finish the ride, to get him warmed up, to take him to the baseball game, and everybody gets it done. And Telsys is usually the last on the list, like rest, so recovery for me is really crucial and important, but sometimes I don't always get to it because I have a lot of other things I have to juggle. And my daughter has, musical theater, and we live a very full life, right? So, and sometimes they train with me, which is fun, and they support me. My son wants to get a trainer so he can train next to me, which I think is super cool. And she's like, my water girl. She brings me my waters and my electrolytes, and, so it's a family affair. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this. So that decision was not taken lightly because I'm like, my mom comes in sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning so I can go for a 5-hour ride when I'm going out with my team. And it's a family affair, doing these triathlons.
But I wouldn't say I get what you're saying. You're putting yourself second, but you're putting yourself first too.
No, yeah, the decision to even race.
The decision
Agreed.
to even wake up at 2 to get your ride in, because you know how much better you're going to feel and accomplish. And you're setting that tone for your kids. Aren't your kids seeing that?
Yeah. And that they, I'll give you an example. I told you guys this yesterday, but I think it's important for everyone to hear that. I went to my son before I left on Wednesday night. We played the playoff game Wednesday night. I flew out to Tempe on Thursday from Miami. But Wednesday night, I grabbed his hand. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry I'm not going to be there on Sunday. And the kid turns around and says to me, my mother is racing an Ironman at the same time that I'm playing my championship game. And that is so cool to me. And I'm like, all right, I can leave. I can go. And, so when I called him yesterday after I decided to end the bike, my son says, why are you on the phone? You haven't finished your 3rd lap on the bike. Like they're, and I said, it wasn't my day, buddy. And I started bawling, right? Why are you crying, Mom? Like, we've never seen you like this. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, sometimes it's okay to just honor yourself and be like, it wasn't working for me. It just wasn't. And my daughter was really freaked out too. She's like, are you okay, Mom? And my dad was like, it's okay. We've never seen her
vulnerable.
Vulnerable is huge in our family.
Okay.
Like, they've seen me go through some ups and downs and relationships, even struggles with their dad. And I never keep that from the kids. Like, I've had a pretty rough year in terms of some situations in my life this year. And I'm like, the first part of me is like, hide in the room after they go to sleep. And I said, no, this year they're 10 and 9 now, and so they're going to sit here and see that it can get mucky sometimes. And that's cool. And they're part of my healing process too. Like, they can support me, and they backed me up on some occasions this year that I gave them the opportunity to, because I didn't hide it from them. And so, yeah, I'm kind of trying to raise conscious humans, not trying to, create a bubble for them to be, not everything is perfect.
Right, because their life probably already has gotten mucky sometimes.
Yeah, no, even in the fact that they've been raised by a single mom, and their dad and I have a great relationship now, and he's very involved in their life. But there's just contrast, and it's good for them to have contrast, and they get to make their choices, in life. And I always tell them, like, it's about a choice. And I said, today's choice was for me, and I just wasn't having fun. And Ange, my son, was like, and that's what you're about. You're about having fun. I'm like, yeah, and it just wasn't working for me.
Why do you think contrast is so important for them?
I see other kids whose parents have, remained together, or maybe trying to keep it together. Nothing is perfect, right? But I've seen the way they handle contrast in their life now, and how I've always talked through, situations in our life. And this is why your dad and I didn't work. We just, or whatever. And I don't hide the reality of things from them. I never have. My mom thinks I talk way too much to them. Like, they know too much at such an early age. And I disagree. If you talk to a lot of our friends that are around my kids, they're like, you can have a conversation with my children and they understand it. They're not like, oh, your life isn't perfect. You know what I mean? And it's the reality of their life. They have a lot of contrast between the two people that created them even. And I don't mean bad contrast. It's just we're different people. That fell in love and created lives, and so I don't make him wrong. That's their father. He's 50% of who they are is them, and so And we get along really well. We go on family trips together. We're going to Vail now in a month and a half. We go to Vail as a family trip. We've done it every year. It's a fun trip for the four of us. And
there was a podcast that Rich Roll and Julie did not that long ago. I guess maybe it was towards the end of the summer. I
met him this year, actually. I met Rich Roll this year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Mind, Body, Green, Revitalize.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got invited to that, and he was there. He was a speaker, and we practiced yoga next to each other. I'm like, I think you're so cool. He was a really nice guy, and yeah, she's amazing too. We were hanging out at the pool at the end of the weekend.
She talked about on that podcast. She talked about this very thing, like, you know, couples breaking up and having the kids, and if anybody's interested, I'll put the link in the show notes. But I just love the way she described, because there's so much contrast and there's downright anger and resentment out there, you know, when couples are breaking up. And it was all about like holding reverence for that partner that you created life with, because that partner is in that life that you created.
So I've always found it, this is my take, of course, but I've always found it interesting when people break up and they talk bad about the person that they were just with. Because I'm like, I call BS on that. Why? You chose that person. Like, you were active in that decision to be with that human being, whether they turned on you or it didn't work out in your favor or what you think is your favor, because ultimately we know it's for the greater good of whatever you're going through, right? So I always tell the kids, Dad, if you don't even lift a finger for me the rest of your life, you've given me the best gift in the entire world. Nobody else has been able to deliver that to me, to make me a mother, which is really what I've wanted from a very early age. I knew I wanted to be a mom. And he's giving me the greatest gifts in my life. So he really doesn't have to ever do a thing for me other than that. Like, what else can I ask of him, you know? Like, and I love him for that, you know? And so, and I tell them that, you know, they're like, but Dad, I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. Whatever we went through, it served me. He's been my biggest guru too, because he taught me a lot of lessons that I needed to just become, right? That I needed for myself. I needed to, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I had to become a stronger person. It was like training camp to be a single mom, I guess is the best way. So when I look at it in hindsight now, like, I understand why I had to go through those highs and lows with him to become a better human being, a stronger person, a stronger mother, and really define myself, because I had to stand up to certain things that I didn't agree to and better define myself.
So I think it's always, you know, everybody looks back and they're like, oh, I can connect the dots. And I think what really is the discriminator as far as if we're really able to navigate this life with some semblance of grace is in the moment, knowing that, okay, this is for me. Mm-hmm. I might not know right now why or what, but it's for me. So I'm going to pay attention. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pay attention to it, and I'm going to show up as an awake being. And that's really what you're doing with your kids. We said, you know, you're raising conscious humans, but they're awake. They're awake to the contrast in the world. They're awake to conflict. They're awake to the fact that, you know, they were created in a partnership that was founded in love, and that you guys have found your way to still have a kinship with one another and have this family unit without a facade of bullshit.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. That's it.
Like, it really is about having these kids that are awake. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need, more people awake.
And I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of them, the way they navigate certain situations. You know, they're 10 and 9 now. And so they're starting to have like contrasts at school, you know, the girls and them, oh, but so-and-so said this. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Do you care? What do you care about? What's important to you, right? But so-and-so said this. Okay, are you that? No. That's somebody's opinion. It's not truth. Do you understand? Everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's like a God-given right? Like, it's like a birthright. But that doesn't mean it's truth. And if you add energy to it, then you're going to probably get what that person is saying, you know, and that a lot of it has to do with fear. My children are in situations where they've had, you know, they're actors as well, and they get a lot of exposure. You know, my daughter had a billboard on the side of a major highway and just 9 stories tall. And so, you know, I told their dad, I said, are we putting them in harm's way or are we elevating their experience? You know what I mean? Because at this age, it's so fragile. Like, so-and-so has a billboard, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that kind of stuff, you know, and she navigated it with grace. And that was an opportunity for her. And that's what she brings to her life and the opportunities that she's manifested for herself. You know what I mean? And it's so cool to see. I don't believe that my children are mine, so to say. I believe that I help them through this life, and they are my biggest as well, my biggest teachers as well.
I love that. Wayne Dyer, who's not on this earth anymore, talks about like children. He's like, they're not yours. Stop thinking that they're yours. Yeah, they're not yours. But there's a deep connection there, obviously, because they came through you.
Yeah.
So amazing. I really think that you're a kick-ass mom.
Should we go back to Ironman?
Yeah, we're going back to the DNF.
I was like, wait a second. I just went to
I'm putting the blinker on. We're going back to the DNF because I want to know, since then, it was the right decision. It feels aligned with you. Yeah. But that dang ego, like in the middle of the night, should I not have done that?
No.
Should I? Has it been hassling you at all?
No, I have a lot of peace about it. Like I said, seeing people cross the finish line, hear Mike Riley call their name, and I'm like, I was so happy for them. There was no like, God, I wish I would have just finished that run, and not at all.
So somebody who didn't finish yesterday, and they are beating themselves up right now, mm-hmm. what would you say to them to help them navigate that?
I think we have to put things into perspective. I think even having the courage to toe the line of an Ironman is something grand, is something that is extraordinary. Just the ability to say, I have gotten myself here, I have done the training. Because, a 5K, I could probably pull off without having done any training. An Ironman, you can't just roll up and be like, okay, let's go 140 miles, see what I can get done, And so I think just even that, like a girlfriend of mine who we've been friends since we were little kids, she always reminds me on my race days, she's like, you're just going to go get your medal. You already did the race. And it's true. And so if you're beating yourself up about it or you're second guessing, like you shouldn't. It's just sometimes it's the contrast, right? And how you show up. And you showed up every day I showed up every day for my training. I did everything I could. I put in the work, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of the lesson that my kids are going to learn from this and all the opportunities that will present themselves. There's going to be another Ironman. I'm not going to not stop doing Ironmans, And even just for me, it's really a huge lesson for me that I just honored the fact that I wasn't feeling it. Because any other day, I think I would have just been like, I'm going to truck through this like I truck through everything in life. And, not like, I want everybody to see how strong I am, And I'm like, I'm stronger. Yesterday, I was stronger in making a decision that was best for me.
And it really comes back to the journey that you had and all the training leading up and every day that you showed up for the workouts and in this Ironman world, which is we're all three of us are in marketing. It's a train that is like picking up steam every single year, mm-hmm. adding races and making it more accessible for people. And that very fact of the whole journey it takes to get to that one race, it's a lot, but we hang it. I think a lot of people hang it on the race, the end goal, and they get to the attachment of the investment I made financially, and they catalog everything they've done in the past, feeling that they're owed this race experience. When in reality, you got to backpedal a bit and find out what's really important in your life leading up to this experience. Mm-hmm. And I've had plenty of DNFs and DNSs, and it's brought me back to pure joy in every day that I stand up to the workout or session or challenge or trying to make it work. But I feel we all get wound up into this final moment when you can race again.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, granted, there is a financial investment. There's of course, the time in and of itself, but I mean, I'm just adding to my training bank, right? It's just another opportunity. And it's actually fueled me to want to race again, to get that fire back. I cried yesterday. I did let it out, which I think is why I'm so tired, because I went through like a lot of processing yesterday, and I cried with my kids. And the thing for me what scared me the most about the DNF was not the DNF itself. It was that I didn't have my fight out there. and that there was kind of something wrong, that maybe I pushed myself too hard this year, or I've been pushing myself too hard, period. That's what's kind of scared me. And that's what I was crying about. I was like, who's this woman that doesn't have this, like, again, autopilot, right? Go, 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 laundry, baseball, okay, 20-minute, yoga flow just to stretch myself out. Oh, she's got musical theater. Go, you know what I mean? Or, science fair projects. God, science fair projects.
Your science fair project.
Yeah, I'm like, I should be getting that medal. That was my project. But there's just a lot, and I haven't even mentioned work. Right? There's like work in all of that, and so I just towing the line of an Ironman, just getting through that chilling, bone chilling swim yesterday was like, you really needed to check yourself when you got in that water. And I'm like, I'm doing this, but I had the fire. I'm like, I'm doing the swim. There is no question. You know what I mean? And so I felt good about that. Got out. All right, let's do the bike next, right? And when I got on that bike, there was no fire. The fire was to finish the swim for sure. I don't know. It was a new Telsys, and I'm cool with that.
Where do you get this perspective? Like, do you have a mindfulness practice?
Yes.
Like, where do you get this calmness and ability to sort of like filter through these experiences?
Okay, so if you look at, when I hang out with the people that that are here in this house that are all triathletes, I think that they're amazing. I think it's amazing all that we do to get to the finish, to the finish line, or just to race at the competitive level that everybody's racing in. You take me out of that tribe, like we were talking about that tribe, and I'm in the PTA. I'm talking about 5th grade fundraising. All these other people just think that I'm nuts. They're like, you're going to go in the water now? Yeah. You guys pick whatever color you want for the PTA sign. I got to get in the water. So I toggle between these two, kind of lives, I guess, so to say, right? And I'm like, I'm not as fast as these guys, right? I'm just trying to really push my body as hard as I can. And then I live this other life where these women are, they're just going to go to maybe an Orange Theory class. Not knocking that. I'm just saying compared to the volume that I'm doing, you know what I mean? I look at it and I'm like, I'm keeping it together. I'm healthy at 44. I still have my yoga practice that I really have pushed a lot this year. I have time for my kids. I'm like, I believe that you can do everything you want to do. And if you don't, you just find an excuse, right? And so I think with proper, like, timing everything, what is important, you get it accomplished. And so the perspective to have this piece about not finishing the race or what have you is, I am just really proud of myself for everything that I get done, and that my kids think I'm a badass, and that my parents, support me, and I'm totally cool with it. And even all of the, I got probably about 10 text messages yesterday. I don't know if you can read this. Are you okay? There's no update on the tracker about you. What's going on? Did you get a crash or what have you? And everybody that I sent a note to, I said, I pulled out 75 miles out of the race. It just wasn't my day. Everybody was like, you're a badass no matter what. You're an Ironman no matter what, and just that support, every time I go to do a race, there's so many people behind me. It just comes out of the woodwork. They're like, that's so cool, Telsys. And I guess that opens up, and I've heard a lot of, the past couple of years, I've heard a lot of inspiration. That's why I started I have an Instagram account, but it was all like pretty pictures of like beaches and palm trees, and it was not me. And I wasn't on Instagram a couple of years ago. And a lot of people were like, you need to post this stuff. This is like inspiring. And I'm like, really? Okay. So I kind of I'm like, okay, I'll open up and I'll put a picture of me on a bike or something, and I didn't realize that my journey and my experience and my highs and my lows, which of course I'm going to post about, like everything, it's a curated life on Instagram, right? I'm like, can't always post the good stuff, have to post the bad stuff, which in my opinion is even the bigger learning, Of course, we're all going to learn from our successes, and then from this. And again, this is not a failure. I really don't view this as a failure. I'm actually pretty impressed that I just said, I'm good. This is it. 75. Here we go. I'm done.
And by the way, you did get through that bone-chilling swim. Which, how cool was it that you guys literally started in the dark?
We did.
I thought that was
so. Are we not going to wait for the sun to warm up the water a little bit?
I'm like, I like this Ironman. You might have a little edge again, right? Like having people start in the dark. I loved that. And you rode what?
75
miles.
Yeah, 2 loops on the bike.
That's a good day.
Which, let me tell you, the going up, you know, the course is three loops. The going up part, you're on a headwind and you're on this like slow uphill grade, and you're like, man, this is hurting. And you see the kids coming back, and you're like, why do they look so fresh? Because you didn't, you know. Then you come back on that first loop, and you're like, oh, now I know why they look so fresh. You're going 28, 30 down, you know, the back end for 45 minutes. You get this amazing like reprieve, right? You're like, okay, all that work I just did going up, now I'm getting it. I'm reaping the rewards.
I bet that reprieve helped you go out for the second loop too.
Yes. I'm like, you got this, another hour up that grade. You got this. And, you know, but the fight, the internal fight for me was just something I've never experienced. For perspective, Cozumel, I had a nutrition malfunction on the Cozumel race. Stopped eating on the bike. I just felt like throwing up. Wasn't like, something was up with my stomach. So by the time I got on the run, I am now, I don't know, 8 hours into the race, very little nutrition. But I'm like, there is no way I'm not finishing this thing. So I like gathered myself in T2, went out. The first 3 miles, I honestly don't even remember. Bumped into my good buddy, who you guys just met. And he said, what's up? And I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just going to go one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to finish this thing. I threw up 12 times in the marathon. I could not hold anything down, not even water. I would drink water, throw it up. But there was no way in heck that I was not going to finish that race. That's my fight. That's what I'm telling you. That's why I was like, and I wasn't even struggling on the bike. I was like, nutrition was on point, felt great, just wasn't enjoying myself. That's why I'm telling you. I'm like, I got a fight in me, and I didn't have it yesterday, and I'm okay with that. You know, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think you can. It's like move on now, right? It's like move on. We have an experience. I tell myself all the time. Like, I've been having some really amazing races, and I'm like, okay, it's a part of you. It's in your cells. Move on. Mm-hmm. Move on. You don't need to be posting a picture every 2 days about what you did 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Move on. Mm-hmm. Move on. I mean, it's fun every now and again, throw a little throwback Thursday, but don't live there. Don't live in the past, because it's an anchor. It doesn't allow you to move forward. Yeah. And it's all about moving forward. So yesterday served a purpose for you, and
for other people too. Like, people just think I'm like that. People that don't really know me that well, you know, they're like, God, she just goes, right? It's okay not to go. I'm really. These guys can see me. I'm at peace with it. Really, I'm like, I'm good.
She's doing the peace sign.
Thanksgiving. It's official. We got turkey trot on Thursday. We're running with the kids. You know, I'm like,
it was funny because you mentioned the 5K, and I'm thinking about running the 5K by my sister's house, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how am I gonna do this?
Why
a 5K? Because that's gonna hurt.
Oh, you mean all out? Oh, you say, okay, got it. Okay. Speaking of intensity,
I'm like, whew, all right, I think I can do it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what you do, because you do what you love. So what is it? What do you love, and how are you making a difference in people's lives through what you do?
I own a event production marketing strategy company called Afterglow Marketing, and we do a bunch of fun events, and I love to do that. It's about organization, it's about production, it's about execution. And that's a lot of fun. I'm also an actor. So I do a lot of commercial work based out of Miami. I act with my kids a lot. My daughter is an actor as well. She's in musical theater. And my son is more of a print, you know, you kind of point, click on him, and he's great. But we just shot in the Bahamas a couple of weeks ago for Royal Caribbean, which is a ton of fun. Flew private planes out there. Like, they put us up at Gray Harbor, and then we shot at Coco Cay. And there's an entire campaign. I think we have a 100-foot billboard, my son and I, in Penn Station. And my daughter's going to get another billboard in Miami again.
How did you start getting into acting?
So I was a cheerleader. I played softball first, and then I was a cheerleader all through high school and into college. And my mother had always wanted me to do drama, and I was like, I don't have time for drama. I want to be thrown up in the air and, you know, do cheerleading and stuff. But I went to Florida State my last 2 years of college, and I just kind of wanted to be a normal student. I didn't want to like 6 a.m. practice, 7 p.m. gymnastics, and it was just a lot on me. And I was just like, I just want to experience college. And so I went to Florida State and just experienced college, but I didn't have the performance aspect anymore. Like it lacked, cheerleading is a performance in all aspects. And so when I moved to Atlanta right out of college, I took a couple of acting classes at a local theater there, and I loved it. And I got a headshot, and then I had to audition for my first agent. And so since I was 24, I've been acting. I really in my heart of hearts, I always wanted to go to LA and really do the movie thing and see if I can get into that. But making money and the stability for my family, I didn't have kids back then, but even for my parents back home in Miami, that was more important. Like I needed the stability of the financial stability instead of opening up my wings and going to LA and seeing if I could make it, And it really wasn't something that I wanted that bad. But nonetheless, I got booked a ton. I think I've done maybe over 90 commercials. And in Atlanta, I got booked a ton because you don't have a lot of people that have a clean English with a clean Spanish. Because my background is Cuban. And I kind of have this what is it? There was a director that once said, you have, you're ethnically ambiguous. So I could play the Italian girl, I could play the Latina, I could play the Jewish girl. I have this.
You totally can play all those things.
Curly hair or straight hair, they can straighten it out. So
you can throw down an accent from New York City. I bet.
From the Bronx. So I have this. I was just the token. You can just assimilate to whatever you want her to be, right? And so I did well, and I have a clean English and a very clean Spanish. When I wanted to be. And so it served me well in Atlanta. I mean, I worked a ton in Atlanta, and then I moved back home to Miami, and I met the kid's dad, and then I had the kids, and I kept acting. The morning I went into labor with my daughter on a Friday night, I shot a commercial Friday morning pregnant. And my agent back in Miami, my agent's sister was like, I want that kid. And I'm like, you haven't even met her yet. And he's like, I want that kid. We're gonna make her an actor. And so 3 weeks after I had my daughter, Elise, I was in a Babies R Us commercial, and she was like a baby. And and we've been shooting commercials, and we book a lot together as mother and daughter. I've seen a change that in the industry, that they want real families. They want the real family connection. And, she and I, we play great too. We've done Party City commercials, Whirlpool commercials. We've done a ton of stuff. And the three of us together has been a lot of fun. Now we're in Royal Caribbean. We shot twice this year for Royal. And it's been a blast. They love us. They love the kids. Yeah. So it's been fun. And these kids are making a bunch of money. They have awesome bank accounts. They're going to be able to buy their car at 16, whenever they want it. And they're just having fun being them, which is so fun.
I'm thinking in my head, okay, kids on a private jet, but how do you keep them grounded? But they're already grounded.
I always tell them, you guys have to understand how grateful you have to be for this experience. And I always ground them and be like, there are kids in their school that are on lunch plans. They're not getting mommy making them organic sandwiches, and we're plant-based at home. My son is not. My daughter is plant-based, but my son makes his choices outside of the house. And there's a nice balance there, but we're very organic, at the house. I always say this funny story. The first time they ever went to a party, I was watching the interaction with all the other kids, fairly new kids that they had never hung out with, and one of the kids goes, "Let's go get juice." Yeah, let's go get juice. And my kids are like, "Yeah, let's go get juice." And they run to the refrigerator, start picking out the fruits to juice. And the other kids went running to a cooler that was outside to get juice packets. And all the moms are looking at me going, "Really, Telsys?" And I'm like, "What do you want me to do? That's how we juice in our family, right? We juice, right?" So anyhow, I always tell them, I said, there's not, there is a balance, and we're not on, the private plane thing was they've done it twice, and we're in gratitude for it.
Yeah.
Every day I look at them and I'm like, you guys have lived more of a life than your grandparents have, than even your mom has at this age, at this day and age. They go skiing in Vail every year, Vail. Not even that alone as a resort is super fancy, It's I'm so happy that they've gotten to experience what they experience, and that they are as good as they are. They have their moments. I want to rip their heads off sometimes, but they're not perfect by any means. But, you know, when you chafe down to the core, they are awake, like you said. Mm-hmm.
So one thing that my meditation teacher has taught me, and something that I've really taught myself over the years, is like, don't dim your light. Like, don't dim your light because somebody else is not living in the light. And also don't lose your shape, right? Like when that was always a big one as I was starting to get stronger, being around family, right? Family is like amazing. They're such great gurus. And you, obviously living in such light, like you are, it's the reason why we're all sitting in this living room right now, right? Like you live in the light, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show. How important is that to, like, because there are a lot of people that aren't living in the light, to not, and I don't mean this in a way that's judgmental or insulting, but to not dip your energy for another, to live where you live, like richly. And I mean that in the sense of a full life, an exciting life, a beautiful life, a organic food life, and not dim that down because somebody else is not choosing that.
Early on, when I was like 18, 19, I had a relationship that I was judged for. Won't get into too much details, but I realized very early on that this is what's right for me, and that other people's fear of a relationship or who I choose to love is their fear. It's not mine. And that involved a lot of people around me. And so from very early on, I made a very conscious decision that if I feel it in my gut, and I feel very strongly that I have a really strong gut, like I can really just what's right for me and move in that direction. And what was my greatest service was moving in the direction of that relationship, despite the opposition that was around. And ultimately it came out that it was just their fear of the relationship and what he and I brought to the table together. And so I'm not going to dim my light. This is who I am. And I don't ever believe that the way that my kids and I live our life is ever intruding on anybody else's or stepping on anybody else's toes in any way. But I come from a background, and this is really a story that is, when people ask me, why do you do what you do? Why do you do Ironmans? Why do you do this? My grandmother, when I was 2 years old, was diagnosed with ALS. And she used to take care of me. She was like my caretaker when my parents were working and stuff. I'm an only child. And she died when I was 6. And ALS, if you know, it is a hell of a disease, man. And to see her one day go from like being able to write and then not being able to write, and then one day being able to breathe, and then now we had to bring in a machine to help her, just her lungs expand. And so when my first realization of what death was like to me, it was a release. So my parents were like, your grandma died. And I'm like, yay. And they're like, do you understand? And I'm like, yes, her body is free. Like, she's done. We should be happy, you know? Like, and my parents are like, okay. It took them a while. I remember looking at them going, why aren't we celebrating this? No, she's not here, but who wanted her here like that? Like, and so when people ask me, what's your motivation for doing an Ironman? And Jan Frodeno said this also when he was being interviewed for Kona, that he's like, why do you have to go back and win another one, right? He goes, because I can. And I'm like, Jan, that is what I've been saying forever. Because I can move my body. It's a celebration to my grandmother who her mind was intact and she couldn't move her body. She was trapped in it. And so I'm going to live every day like it is my last and celebrate every moment, you know? And when we get off of a 5-hour bike ride and my daughter's like, let's go paddleboarding, like my legs are sore. And I'm like, let's go paddleboarding. It's flat bay, sun's out. Why not? You know what I mean? Because you can. And so I think people take extravagant luxuries with time because it's not promised. And I think that, you know, I want to do that one day. Let's go do it right now. Why do you want to wait till tomorrow? And so I have a different perspective because I grew up and saw what I saw. And so, no, I'm not going to dim my light. Like I'm going to live it. I'm going to live life to the max. I'm going to go full throttle.
That's what makes you badass.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here like super, super fired up right now. I'm like, oh man, I got to go do something. I got to get on the bike tonight. But that's the very thing that this podcast does. And people are going to be inspired. They're going to be like, okay, well, you're doing it. You're getting out there. You're a single mom. and it stands for a day or two or maybe a week, and then it starts to
Die down. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think people are, creatures of habit, right? And, I've seen a lot of people say, man, you inspire me. And I'm like, okay, let's go out for a run. The idea of the inspiration, but then the hard work, that it takes. Everybody wants a great relationship, but then when it gets mucky, that's what relationships are about, right? We're mirrors. We're reflecting, even in our friendships and our relationship, we're reflecting what we want, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe the person that is inspired by me, I'm inspired by them, and I'm reminded how I was there one day where I didn't have that motivation, and how I think the minute you take the first step towards your dreams, the universe will work.
It gets on board.
Conspire. Mm-hmm. It gets on board, but you have to move. And I think people are frozen in fear sometimes, and that's scarier than anything. That's scarier than anything, I think, is to be frozen in fear of, and shortchange yourself.
Fear of success.
Fear of light, of really exposing the light and what you can bring to this world. And so, no, nobody should dim their light. I mean, there's a balance there. Let's be honest. Like, some people are a little bit too bright with their light, or a little bit too showy, or whatever the case may be. But it's authentic and genuine, and people are going to resonate with it, and they're going to want to get on your train, and support you or be part of your tribe or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that. That we've seen that.
You guys are the perfect. Exhibit 101 right here. Like, you guys and your forward movement and what you guys bring to the table, and how inspiring your stories are, of all of the things that you guys have accomplished, and how I'm sitting here looking at them, and I'm inspired by them, and I'm like a total groupie, and at the same time I'm on the same page with them. So it's like, it's magical.
Yeah, everything is vibrational alignment. Yes. We would not be in this room right now if there was not vibrational alignment. Mm-hmm. And the universe, it's just amazing how it does conspire to support you. I had a very quick story this morning. I had Clark illegally in a dog park because he was supposed to have this little fob thing or whatever. And a guy came in with the clipboard, and he's checking all the dogs and everything. And my sister's like, well, just tell him, this story, basically lie. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, Satya, right? Like, truthfulness. Like, this is the Eightfold Path of Yoga. And I said, I can't lie. Mm-hmm. And she was like, what? I said, I can't lie. Believe me, I spent so many years lying my ass off. Mm-hmm. I was so good at lying. And I was like, I can't lie. I said, but she's like, you're going to get me in trouble. I said, nobody's going to get in trouble. Like, let's just trust this. I'm going to put Clark on a leash, and we're just going to walk out. It's going to be fine. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. And the guy's got the clipboard and literally locks you into the dog park. There was locks because he was going to check all the dogs. And so I go in, I'm trying to get out, and I'm like, oh, it's locked. And another woman's like, oh yeah, it's locked. He goes, oh, well, let me let you ladies out. And he's got the clipboard and the pen, and he's kind of looking at the dogs and everything. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Nobody's going to get in trouble. It's going to be fine. And he unlocks the thing, and literally the universe comes in, swipes his clipboard, everything falls on the ground, his papers go everywhere, and I'm like, see you later.
Peace out.
Have a great day. And that was just, it's
go.
everywhere. And it's recognizing that it's everywhere, that there is support everywhere. And I think the basis of fear is there's one question at the basis of fear. Are we alone, or are we connected? Because if we're alone in this world, that is a very scary way to live. That's just, there's this one question to everything. Are we alone, or are we connected? So I know that you started Afterglow when your kids were babies, because you were like, I'm going to be with my kids, and I'm going to take them to school, and I'm going to be a mom, and I'm not. So that was a little bit of a risk.
Yeah, that was jumping without a net for sure.
We love that.
Listen, and being an entrepreneur is hard. It has a ton, like, high risk, high reward. It really has high risk, high reward. But yeah, I just, my parents were always there for me. Like, my dad was at every cheerleading practice, at every cheerleading meet, and I love that. I had their support always had theirs. Even when I called them yesterday, my dad was like, it's good. You got 2 under your belt. You go back next year for another one. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Always being on my, my team. And so I wanted that for my children. I didn't want them to ever, like, I don't know, be waiting for the bus to come. My favorite part of my day, even if they're fighting, my favorite part of the day is to go pick them up and be like, how was your day? They're not allowed to say good. I want details. So they say good, and I'm like, and they're like, okay, so this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And so it's just fun. And I wanted the opportunity and the flexibility to do that, you know? I mean, sometimes I may be on a conference call when I'm picking them up, but I'm like, shh, don't say anything. But I manage my own schedule, which also affords me the ability, which is another thing is, you know, I get the ability to really mess with my schedule in terms of my training that affords me that. And it's the life that I designed.
Were there ever scary times?
Very. This year there was very scary times. It was my slowest year at Afterglow, and then we got this amazing acting gig that kind of came in and saved the year.
So what do you do when it gets scary? How do you walk through that day when it's scary?
I wake up, I tie my shoelaces, I go out for a run, and then I do a little yoga flow, and I trust. I mean, I meditate every morning, and meditation the past couple of months when it was scary was, it's going to be fine. And it's funny because I have that same resolve when I'm doing my events, when, you know, sometimes, like, I don't know, the AV guy is like struggling with whatever, there's always something going on, right? And the client's like, what's happening? And I'm like, it's going to be fine. Let me do my job. Like, they're like, you always give me so much peace. And I'm like, and you never know. You just never really know. There's always that element of, which I think is kind of why I like it so much, because it's almost like this element of like, yeah, the edge, right? And you're like, is it really going to happen? Like, is the thing going to come on right when they kick it off or whatever? And it always happens the way it's supposed to. And this year happened the way it was supposed to. A lot of lessons and a lot of faith in the manifestation and the ability to ask the universe to deliver. And
so in the scary times, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to lace up my shoes and go. Mm-hmm. I think what you're describing is presence.
Yeah.
Like just moving in the moment. And how does presence translate to your life as an athlete?
That's an interesting question. I never not go on my training if I'm scared. Like, you know, like that actually helps me be more present. Because I don't ever train with music. I train like you would an Ironman. You're not allowed to listen to music or anything. So I'm just listening to my breath, fighting my thoughts, whatever that is. And then I always come out, endorphins are pumping, and I just feel good. I accomplished one thing today. That was on my list. I did that. What's next? Do my yoga flow. Okay, what's next? Go pick up kids. Okay, make that phone call, and like the ability to train and have that to fall back on for me is what keeps me present in every day. And it keeps me going. It's like my thing. It's for me. BJ made a great point earlier, was like, I still find time for me, even though despite I feel like I'm the second to everybody else, but I do. And I honor that time, and everybody around me honors the time too, which is really cool. Like, if maybe I didn't get to my run in the morning, my daughter's like, shouldn't you be leaving for your run? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm on my way. Like they keep me in check, they keep me accountable.
What about meditation for an athlete? Somebody who's not meditating, they're thinking about it, or they think they can't. What do you think meditation brings to the athlete?
I think a race like an Ironman is a form of meditation. You are out there for so long, you're in your thoughts. The true practice of meditation, all aside, sitting down, I do it with malas, like sometimes I just recite mantras or what have you. It is a game changer. It is a game changer because most athletes are just go, 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 go. And that's one thing when I first started triathlon and training, there was no silent time, especially when you train with a team. I train by myself a lot, so I do have a lot of time on my own, but the guys that I'm with, they're all training in a team, they're talking, there's no quiet. And then they go on to something else. One of the guys owns 8 restaurants here, and then another guy has 2 kids. He's a single dad of 2 kids, and he manages like a huge company. And so there is no quiet time for them. And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring as a yogi and a yogi-minded individual to athletes. When I teach what I call recovery yoga. It's really yoga for athletes. because I don't think that triathletes like an Ironmanners are going to go to a yoga class and put like their leg behind their neck. It's not going to happen. Their hamstrings are super tight. Like it's not happening. Hips are out of whack, from being on the bike for 20 hours, and so I do in my classes, I always teach 1 minute, 2 minutes of meditation. And that's probably the most still those athletes I've ever been in all of the day. And it's how I serve people. I do yoga I teach it on Saturday mornings is the only time I have. But I do it because I love it. And I'm giving back to my community. And I think yoga is a form of long-term health. Like triathlons and triathlete training and running and all that is great now. But I think long-term health and for the sustainability of the sport, if you want to keep it, I think yoga is the way to go, and being able to have like a limber body and on the yogic philosophy that comes with it, and being present and being with yourself and listening to your body and listening to your thoughts and what's working, what isn't serving you or what have you. I don't think there's a quiet time. People don't really carve that out in this kind of fast-paced world that we live in.
And watching yesterday, being at the entryway to where the athletes came in, I think is where we saw you.
You guys were body marking when I saw you.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So I was outside with Clark to start, and watching the faces and the energy of the people coming in to what you're talking about. Most athletes get to race day and they haven't really done any mind training. And if we have,
which is really the most important
which
discipline.
Which is the most important thing. So
there's nutrition there too, of course, but,
right.
But
nutrition, time,
mind,
you put all this money
yeah.
in, and you arrive on race day and your mind is, because of the energy of most people is chaotic, and they're allowing themselves to indulge in the 60, 70,000 plus thoughts they have in a day. Like I'm sure it's even doubled in an experience like that, surrounded by all those people. And I could see it on their faces, everybody getting caught up in, where did these bags go? And, I can't come in here now. I have to go this way. And I know it's a lot of first timers and they're letting a lot of new people in there, but that mindset, if you don't have that calmness, if you don't have the ability to sift and sort through like what's really important and what isn't. So if everybody started to take that yogi mind, everybody would get to the start line, let's just say Ironman Arizona, the 3,000 plus athletes, all that energy. Think about how calm that would be. Everybody would be feeding off of everybody else. I bet it would be way less chaotic. I bet you more people would have success on the day, whether that was finishing or not. And they would understand that it goes beyond the race and it goes beyond this training. Like mindfulness and yoga, and you don't have to sell us on that, obviously.
We're all drinking the same Kool-Aid.
We're all drinking the same Kool-Aid. But when I see that out there, I just want to scream it from the mountaintops. There's so much more to having a calm mind. And it takes work. I think
a lot.
It takes a lot of work. And you can easily plug into music and watch a Netflix movie when you're on the trainer, but it's also, how important is this experience to you in the end? And to do the mental reps now. I
think triathletes, with the amount of load that they're taking on, I think it's very disconnected if you don't really practice the mindfulness aspect of it. Because you can just there's so much load. There's so much working out and training and listening to music, and there's never quiet. I don't know how, I need the quiet. Plus I'm an only child. I'm like used to being alone. And like even sometimes I tell my kids, I'm like, guys, I need 10 minutes. Like, I'm going to close up shop. Don't knock on the door. Mom's not here. Got it, Mom. Okay. And
that's putting yourself first.
Yeah.
That is so putting yourself first. All right. As we start to wrap this up, because it goes by so fast.
Is it?
Tell us about the athlete race.
So the athlete race is what I call a non-traditional triathlon, which is not a typical swim, bike, run. The idea that I wanted to make athletes ambassadors for change, right? Like if we're triathletes, we're all triathletes, so we're going to do a triathlon. That's going to happen. But the idea is that athlete race is something that you put as part of your training to get to whatever really your bigger race is. And the idea is that the first race that we did as athlete races, we paddled 5K because on average a woman in Africa has to walk 5K a day for access to clean water. So it's a water aspect. And then we ran a 5K because on average there's 3.1 billion people in this world that don't have access to renewable energy, meaning They go to their house, 3.1 billion. Mind you, our population is 8 billion, almost close to half of the world doesn't have access to electricity. So kids in India are turning on the lights and the light doesn't work. They can't do their homework. And then we did something pretty crazy called the 805 challenge. 805, a series of 805 repetitions. So it was made up of like 100 pull-ups, 400 squats, deadlifts. I couldn't walk after I finished this because I don't train like that anymore. And they literally had to put me in a plunge pool because they had to carry me and put me in a plunge pool so I could revive my legs from the cold water. And 805 million people go hungry on a daily basis. So, you know, when people that don't know triathlon, they're like, oh, what distance did you do? Now the athlete will say, I did this. Well, why did you do a 5K? Well, because this. And now I just made you aware. I just woke you up. And so the idea is that every athlete raises $2,000. It is a for-profit company, but we basically use the money that's raised for production to just cover the production of the race. And we haven't had another race. Believe it or not, I got into a legal situation with Adidas. They didn't like our logo. They thought it was too close to theirs. So they shut me down for 2 years. We finally are out of it. It was I'm like, little old me? Okay, sure, we'll talk. So now we're ready to move forward. The idea is that we make it a global race. We're starting in Miami because that's home base for me. And then we want to do one in Austin, Whole Foods. We've been talking to Whole Foods for a while now. And you don't get a medal. The medal is just serving people. That's your medal. And so it's really unique. And you have an athlete caddy. We call them athlete caddies. And so there's somebody that's supporting you through the race, counting your reps. And every year the distances change. It's based on what's relevant that year. That's a social cause that needs to be energy or light shined on it, you know?
I love it.
So, and it's cool because every year it's different. It's a different race, you know? I mean, I'm sure there's always going to be something around water. I'm a big paddle boarder and that's always fun. But the idea is not to do a typical triathlon. I think there's a million of those. And I love it, right? There's so much opportunity to race out there and to push yourself. But this one isn't about the time. It's about the distances because they're relevant to something that's bigger than us.
And it's about awareness. And awareness is, you want to wake up, you got to have awareness. You got to see. And that's what you're teaching your kids to do. And that's what you're doing. And that's what we're living. And that's what this conversation is about. Because maybe somebody just woke up, like maybe a light bulb went off. So how can people follow you and be your kin?
So I'm on Instagram. I'm at Telsys T, and that's TELSYST. And I'm also on Instagram as non-Telsys, really. It's Life is Grand 22. And that's where you won't see a picture of me. That's where I started, on Instagram. Afterglow Marketing, which is the name of my company. Athlete Race. We're on and we also have something called the Athlete Tribe, which supports the runners and the athletes for Athlete Race. So we get together in different places and we do workouts that are eventually going to get you ready for Athlete Race and to create a tribe of people that really want to make a difference in the world.
That's amazing. Well, we're all about creating a better world. We're so grateful to have you in our lives.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm so moved. Thank you. Thank you for having me.